Welcome to the Travel Tape audio guide to the West Highlands and Mull. This is the 6th in a series of Travel Tape titles covering Scotland. Sponsored by and featuring quality local businesses en route, you'll find them listed on the insert, where a handy location map can also be found. The sponsors are all researched and selected by Travel Tape for your convenience. Return to Glencoe village, and on leaving it you will see a Celtic cross, which was erected in memory of Macian, chief of the MacDonalds of Glencoe, who was murdered in the infamous massacre. A little further on is Glencoe Lochan, created by the first Lord Strathcona, Donald Alexander Smith. A saddler's son from Forres, born in 1820, who at 18 emigrated to Canada and rose to become the Governor of the Hudson Bay Company and High Commissioner for Canada, and later Lord Strathcona, and returned to Scotland and built Glencoe House in 1895. He purchased the old MacDonald grounds when the last laird died with no heirs after being in MacDonald hands for over 500 years. He created the woodland and Lochan for his wife Isabella, who was half Native American from British Columbia, in an attempt to mimic the forests of Northwest America. Sadly, she never settled at Glencoe. The house is now a hospital, and the Forestry Commission purchased the Lochan and estate in the 1950s, and today offer woodland walks through a wide variety of conifers and deciduous woodland, and fishing on the stocked Trout Loch. A mountain walk leads to a summit picnic site with panoramic views over Glencoe and Loch Leven. Return to the village and head west up through Glencoe. Known as Glen of Weeping, Glen of Sorrows, and even Valley of the Shadow of Death, this is Scotland's best known glen, described by Charles Dickens as a burial ground for giants. The name Glencoe is of course synonymous with the dreadful massacre that took place here on the 13th of February 1692. Prior to this, James VII had lost his crown to William of Orange, who in August 1691 offered a pardon to all clans provided they sign an oath of allegiance before January 1692. Macian, chief of the MacDonalds of Glencoe, was a man of loyalty and integrity and felt he needed the permission of his old monarch before agreeing to William's demands. He wrote to James, who was in exile in France, and the reply arrived in Glencoe on the 31st of December. Macian then rushed to the garrison at Fort William and presented himself to the governor, only to discover that a civil magistrate could only accept the oath, and the nearest one was at Inveraray. It was a dreadful winter. All the highways and tracks through the glens were under deep snow, and Macian took much longer than usual to arrive at Inveraray, where he found that the official he sought, Campbell of Ardkinglas, was absent, so his oath was not administered until January the 6th. Sir John Dalrymple, Secretary of State for Scotland, held a grievance against the MacDonalds, and using the lateness of Macian's oath of allegiance as an excuse, he wrote to Colonel Hill at Fort William with orders to put them all to the sword. As a result, on the 1st of February 1692, 120 troops arrived in Glencoe under the command of Captain Robert Campbell of Glenlyon, who made the excuse that the garrison at Fort William was overcrowded and that he had orders to billet in the glen. Although sworn enemies, Highland hospitality dictated that the MacDonalds offer anyone, friend or foe, shelter, food and drink during their stay, and that is exactly what they did for 12 days. In the early hours of the 13th day, as a terrible blizzard hit the village, Campbell ordered his troops to attack. Macian the chieftain was shot in the back as he rose from his bed. The carnage was indiscriminate, as men, women and children were all butchered. The infirm were burned alive as their cottages were set on fire. It was not the savagery and brutality of the massacre, nor the numbers killed that shocked the whole country, but the fact that it was premeditated and planned by men in high positions. King William of Orange had approved the plans, and it took place whilst under the unwritten law of Highland hospitality.